Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18 plus.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's mini missing moment. This segment is all about sharing missing persons information in hopes and efforts to raise awareness and bring these individuals home. Very often, people go missing and we don't have a ton of information to share, but it's still so important for us to try to get as much as we can out there in efforts to bring them home. Other times, loved ones have been missing for months, years, decades, and it's important to share their missing persons information over and over and over again to hopefully reach the right people who may know something or may have the answers that can lead to reuniting the missing with their loved ones. I am Rachel, one half of Like Mother Like Murder, and on today's mini missing moment, I will be telling you about missing teen Stefanie Damron. I would like to quickly mention that we bring a missing persons segment to Weird Java in the morning every single Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on YouTube Live. It's hosted by Kevin Sapiel Jr. and David Salinas, and that is where I first brought Stefanie's missing persons case months ago. Stefanie's still missing and she needs exposure more than ever. So today, we're getting into it. Stefanie Damron was reported missing on September 24th, 2024. Her missing persons flyer reads, Stefanie Damron, born October 6th, 2010, green eyes, 130 pounds, brown shoulder-length hair, 5 feet tall, white, female. What is said about her last known sighting is that she vanished on September 23rd after walking into the woods near her home in New Sweden, Maine. New Sweden is a town in Aroostook County, and according to the 2020 census, had a population of 577 people. So a small rural town in the northern part of the state, right on the border of Canada. What we find out pretty quickly about Stefanie's disappearance is that it was said earlier that day that the parents went into town for a job interview, leaving their kids at home with their grandfather. Well, 2 of the sisters got into an argument about chores, Stefanie being one of them, and she ended up storming out the front door. Her grandfather says that he tried to stop her, but she had tears in her eyes, so he just let her go, thinking she needed space and time. That afternoon, when the parents got back, they went out looking for her without any luck. Stefanie was very familiar with the area and the woods by their home, and they had checked her normal spots, the normal places that she would go to when she would take off, but found nothing. And it's reported that they were concerned, but also it wasn't uncommon for her to take off, so they just thought that she would be back. But she didn't come back that evening. She didn't return at all and hasn't been seen since. Lisa and Christopher, also known as Dale, are her parents, and they've not been named suspects and have not been charged with the disappearance of Stefanie or anything in connection with her disappearance, which is important for me to say because I'm not here to point fingers. I'm here to raise awareness, to share Stefanie's name and picture and information in hopes that we can reach more people, and it continues to be shared until someone sees it, and that someone that knows something ends up coming forward. But I do want to talk a little bit about Stefanie and her family and their way of living. When they moved to their property in rural Maine, it was a choice. They wanted to live off-grid and as homesteaders. They didn't have power and they lived off a generator when they needed to. and they lived in a yurt-style residence, which a yurt by definition is a circular tent of felt or skins on a collapsible framework, a living condition commonly used by nomads in Central Asia. This family that lived there consisted of 7 to 9 people, depending, which I have heard or read varying reports. So Lisa and Christopher, the parents, they have 6 kids, including Stefanie, and then their grandfather was also living with them, which my understanding is that he's not actually a blood relative, more of an addition to the family type relationship. So that would make 9. But I've also heard that the 2 eldest were not living there. I don't know for certain, but either way, either 7 to 9 people were living together in this home. Well, Stefanie and her family lived this way. And I want to make it so clear that I'm not passing any judgment as I speak on this whatsoever. If anything, I'm a full supporter of off-grid living, sustainability, and homesteading, but I bring it up mainly to give a little more insight when it comes to the fact that Stefanie lived a life where she was used to the woods and nature and the outdoors and the elements. And even not knowing her and honestly having very little to go off of when it comes to who she is, I would assume she had street smarts and common sense when it came to survival. But unfortunately, there's a lot of unknown right now when it comes to her case. The fact is, Stefanie is missing, and that's pretty much the only fact we have. Everything on the missing persons flyer should be spot on, or at least pretty damn close when it comes to her description. Height, weight, dates, and all of that, which I mentioned at the top of the episode and will again in the call to action. But the rest is unknown. It's he said, she said. It's a narrative that hopefully is truth, but we don't have enough information or the person who could give us those answers, which would be Stefanie. So remember, it was said that the parents were not home because they went to a job interview. This job interview was in town at Ruby Tuesdays. Stefanie and her sister got into an argument. She ended up leaving. The parents were notified about her walking off that afternoon on the 23rd, but did not report Stefanie missing until around 4 p.m. the next day on the 24th. Their reasoning for this is that they say they believe they had to wait the 24 hours to report her missing. When it comes to walking off, stories change from walking into the woods after the fight to also walking into the backyard, which to me, I can see being the same thing because from what I'm understanding, they lived in the woods. From the front yard, the backyard, their entire property, they're saying she walked away. Well, when the searches were finally underway, canines were brought out and did not pick up anything when searching for Stefanie's scent in any direction, out the front door or in the backyard, or at all. Which, side note, for me is extremely weird because my initial thought is how? Like, how in the world does this canine not pick up to a single scent mark like of hers when she lives there? She has to go outside. They don't have a bathroom inside. She has to go outside to go to the bathroom. She's known to go outside all the time. That's what they're used to. That's what they do. So how in the world would this canine not pick up on anything? Another thing that is brought up is that the grandpa has a phone. And it came out that Stefanie would use this phone to go on dating sites. So one thing that's brought up by the family when they went out to initially search for her is that they said that they heard a vehicle, leading them to be curious as to if she was possibly picked up by someone. As of right now, this is the most plausible cause. Like, this is the most likely thing, in my opinion, just purely based off of what we know from the information we've been given. So taking it back to Stefanie, having access to the grandfather's phone and being able to access the internet and chat with others, which I want to add here, this was not common. This was not known by the family or encouraged. They were living this off-grid lifestyle. Their family intentionally lived this way. They did homeschooling. They didn't have these extracurriculars or social media. So her having access to the internet was not something that was supposed to be happening. I listened to the live show of locating the lost on Stefanie's case. One of the neighbors, whose name is Andrew, joins the live and brings a lot of information. First, I will say, go check out Locating the Lost. They cover very, very important missing persons cases. And I also want to add that this conversation with Andrew is just coming from him. So I don't have proof or facts or certain things he discusses, but I still find it very important to mention for the reason of bringing all things forward that could potentially be helpful. But just wanted to add that disclaimer to tread with caution, as this is all alleged as my reporting on Stefanie. So, this conversation with Andrew on this podcast, on this episode, they discuss the cell phone use and the possible connection with the vehicle that was said to be heard at the time that Stefanie had left. He discusses that the vehicle was heard at the top of her driveway, and that when looking on the phone, when the phone was analyzed or looked at by the family, because I'm not sure if it was the detectives or just said by the family, some of the numbers that had been contacted by Stefanie were local to the area, as well as Canadian numbers. Where they live in northern Maine, it's very close to the Canada border. So with the thought of either leaving on her own free will or being kidnapped or whatever possibility of her entering this car and it being driven off and her not coming home, she could be anywhere. And she could have been in Canada pretty quickly, with it being only about 15 miles away from where she was. Now, when I say that, I'm not sure, like I said, I'm not sure who analyzed the phone. That's what this conversation from Andrew, this is his recollection, right? But he does add that the investigators did confiscate everything that was electronic in their home to do checks on. And then they were all returned with no arrests. So assuming nothing was found that could possibly point in any direction to the family from the electronics. The family members were all taken in and questioned and or took polygraph tests as well, with nothing incriminating coming from those either. In an interview with Stefanie's father, they asked him, if you could say anything to Stefanie, what would you say? And he says, quote, "Just come home. No judgment, just come home," end quote. As a parent myself, I feel like I would have been a little bit more heavy on the "I love you. I need to know you're safe. We miss you." But you never know how you're going to act or what you're going to say in these moments. And that's just an unwanted opinion from me as a mother. Ultimately, it comes down to Stefanie has been missing from her home since September 23rd, 2024. Searches at the home, interviews, polygraphs, canine units, ground searches, and she's still missing. It's been 5 months since she was last seen, and the pressure and the consistency on this case needs to continue, and it needs to escalate in efforts to find Stefanie and bring her home. Stefanie was 13 years old when she disappeared. Her birthday has passed, so she's currently 14 years old. She has green eyes, she's around 130 pounds, brown shoulder-length hair, 5 feet tall, white female. February 4th, they released a statement that a $15,000 reward has been issued for anyone who brings forward information that could lead to the safe return of Stefanie Damron. If you have any information that could lead to Stefanie and bring her home, please contact the Maine State Police at 1-800-924-2261 or 207-532-5400. You can also call the FBI tip line at 1-800-CALL-FBI, which is 1-800-225-5321. I will also have a link in the show notes that has a place for volunteers if you are local to the New Sweden area. They will be doing ground searches in spring starting soon, and they need volunteers. And they have a link on there as well. If you are local and you own property in the area, they're asking landowners to grant permission for searches on your property as well. So please go check out that link if you are able to volunteer or can grant access to having a search done on your property. We will talk to you on Tuesday for our regularly scheduled Like Mother, Like Murder episode. If you have a loved one that is missing and you would like us to help share information on them, please email us at likemotherlikemurder@gmail.com so that we can do our part in sharing a missing person segment in hopes and efforts to help bring them home. You can also find us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube at Like Mother Like Murder, and you can reach out to us on there. Thank you all for listening today. And remember, even if you think that you can't help or make a difference, you can. You can by sharing this episode, by sharing articles of those who are missing, sharing their pictures. All of these things help to raise awareness in their case and keep the momentum going to search and ultimately find the missing. Thank you guys. See you next week. Bye.
How to have fun anytime, anywhere. Step 1. Go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2. Collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa welcome bonus.
Step 3. Play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games. All for free?
Step 4. Unleash your excitement.
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com.